and for the next 15 minutes, we'll be visiting with Montanans who are pretty special. They may not seem so unique at first glance. They may be a friend, a neighbor, a relative, or someone you've known a long time. But they are special, for they are bearers of folk traditions which help make Montana the very special place it is. Gretchen Schlauch was born in northeast Montana and grew up in Glendive. Over the years, she had a chance to attend dances and music parties, and finally, she too became a fiddler. We talked with Gretchen at her home in Missoula, and she played some of her favorite tunes for us and talked about old-time fiddling.
You bet. I was born in Fallon, Montana.
Go ahead. We'll take care of this.
My dad had come up, settled there after he worked with a XIT outfit. And out of Texas, they drove cattle up there. And Miles City was a big headquarters for that too, and Fallon. And my mother came up from Wisconsin in 1910, and they were married in like 1911. And my dad ran the livery stable. I guess they ran the hotel. She had worked there for a while before they were married. But we didn't stay too long in Fallon. I moved from there and in fact we came to Glendive in 1920. And that's where I started my schooling. Mother said she sent me to school in Fallon after we had moved out of there. And they boarded me with a family, and then they'd come and get me on weekends. I guess I didn't work out too well. They got homesick and so did I, so in about the middle of the winter they brought me home. She taught me herself.
So you spent most of your childhood in Glendive?
Mm-hmm.
Part of it?
Yeah.
Was your dad still working cattle when he was in Glendive? Or?
No, he went to work on the railroad after he wasn't working cattle after he and Mother were married. He had the livery stable there in Fallon, and I guess they ran what do they call them? Delivery with the wagons and the horses, dray service, we called it.
I haven't heard it called that in a long time.
Boy, I had to stop and think what the word was. Then when he went to Glendive, then he worked on the railroad. He was a coach cleaner there.
Coach cleaner?
Mm-hmm. And those are long past too. You don't find those anymore. But they'd take off some of the coaches and leave them in Glendive, and then they would be cleaned and picked up on the next run.
I see. Did your mother work at all other than raising the family?
No, she didn't work until during the Depression when they had the Public Works program. And my dad worked for that for a while, and Mother was a very good seamstress. And she was offered a job to run what they called the sewing room. They hired a lot of women to work, and they made everything from rugs to jeans, blankets, chambray shirts, and then they were taken to a central location and distributed to the poor people.
That's interesting.
Every scrap of material was used. And then when my mother and her family had come from Wisconsin and homesteaded near Fallon, she played piano, accorded to a lot of, if there was any fiddler around where they would put on a dance. And she would chord, and also in Fallon. Because I can remember of her putting us to sleep behind the piano, making a bed for us.
At a dance?
Uh-huh. Well, everybody brought their children. You know, there wasn't such a thing as a babysitter. So she'd bed us down behind the piano until, by golly, we were old enough to get out there and dance. The heck with that sleeping while all that dance music was going on. I think I learned how to walk on the dance floor, because I can remember just being a little tot and dancing with all, my father's friends. All the little kids danced. That's why the kids now don't know how to do waltzes and two-steps and schottisches.
Are those the main steps that you used to do?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember any of the other dance steps that you used to do? Were they circle dances or square dances?
Oh,
also?
they did square dances too. And what they called the round dances. But we left Glendive left Fallon before I really learned how to. I wasn't big enough then, to dance those dances. Just getting out on the floor and doing a waltz with some of the guys. It's Vesuviana, I think.
Huh. Where did you hear it called that?
Mary Wheeler calls it that, and Perry, Amy.
Oh, darn.
And I've just all called it Put Your Little Foot.
Yeah. I wonder if it's French Canadian.
It comes from up in Wisconsin. I had on the talking books. They were editing books on all the different states and the history of them. And they were telling about that, and what the name was, Muskrat Rag was the other one. I heard Muskrat Rag many years ago, but I have no idea what it is. So it was very popular. And of course, after we moved to Glendive, and then when I got up to the 8th grade, and then I started in the music program at school, I played in the orchestra. And of course, at that time, then all the standard tunes of the 20s and early 30s came in. And I played those with my brother. Not at dances, I just played one dance with them. They were short a player one night. I went home with $5. Boy, was I proud.
you played fiddle for that dance?
Uh-huh.
What?
I had never had a fiddle before I went into the school orchestra. When mother bought one, my folks were poor. And mother bought one from the music house there, and the woman told her, you can make payments on it. You can take it out of the violin, and you can make payments on it. And boy, my mother sewed and cut hair and did everything else to make the payments on that violin. Well, we were out after a dinner party one night, and Forrest Clark was there. And they were talking about music, and I said, well, I played a violin one time. He said, hey, I think we found a fiddle player. So not long after that, he brought a friend, Louis Meixel, to the house. And he says, you go upstairs and get that fiddle down here, and we're going to tune it up, and you're going to play. And they practiced with me once a week. That must have been in the fall of '72. Because in '73, I entered the contest at Polsen, in the women's division. And we started out on Soldier's Joy. And I think I played that and Faded Love. And Georgiana Moon. My dad loved to have me get the thing out, and he had taught me a tune that my Pretty Quadroon, and I cannot remember it.
Really?
Clay Lewis knows that I'll have to have him play it for me. Any of the old timers would come to the house, Dad would say, Gretchen, get your fiddle. I'd try to get out of the house before I knew he was going to ask me.
production of the Folklife Project of the Montana Arts Council and is produced at KUFM Missoula. This program is made possible through funding from the National Endowment for the Arts Folk Arts Program and the cooperation of your local station. Interviews from our homes in Montana were recorded by the Montana Folklife Project staff and by field teams from the American Folklife Center of the United States Library of Congress. I'm Bill Whithoff, and see you next time.
Tim Kojo, Green Backyard.